Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Kate. I'm also known as Lil Miss Epic. I am very new to YouTube in general, but my friend Alexis has convinced me, so you can blame her for what's about to happen. I've recently been super inspired by a couple of really incredible artists on YouTube, especially the Average Artist. She's absolutely incredible. I love all of her videos, and she does this really cool thing where she paints over the covers of books with movies. While this isn't a movie cover, I wanted to do the same thing with this book. So this book is something that I read last year in my adolescent literature class. So this is The Language of Fire. It's a reimagining of Joan of Arc by Stephanie Hempel. She really did an incredible job with this book. I was hooked all the way through. We were supposed to read it over a course of about 3 weeks, but because it's entirely poetry, it's a really fast read, something you could probably do in about an hour and a half one afternoon. And that's a very generous amount of time. You could really tear through this novel. Now, I actually really love the cover. It's only available in hardback. The paper over it is actually like gorgeous. I love the focus on Joan, but when we get to the hardcover of it, it's kind of like meh. Sparkles. Oh my god. This, as soon as I saw it, I thought, hey, maybe I could do that thing the Average Artist does, but like a coward, and just do it on a blank canvas. Oh my gosh, I've never actually taken the cover off completely before. This is a momentous occasion. So I am going to be reimagining the cover of a reimagining of Joan of Arc. Before I start going crazy on this cover, I wanted to sort of take you through the process of like, how do I morally justify myself ruining the cover of a beautiful book for the sake of boredom? So I wanted to also walk you through my process of like, how did I decide, okay, this is the book I'm gonna be doing this cover on, and what materials I'm using, and the thumbnail sketches and whatnot. I actually started with this little sketch here. So the cause of this mess is these guys, these gorgeous acrylic paint pens from Artistro. I saw these, and because it's kind of hard to find Poscas where I am, I really wanted to get some kind of paint pen just to sort of get me in on the trend, and because a lot of like my art friends use them and my art idols use them, I really wanted to test these out and see like, okay, what's all the hubbub about? Were they worth the hype? Oh my god, guys, they so are. These are incredible. I wanted this set for Christmas. This was like the only thing I asked for, and Mama pulled through. Look at these. They're so pretty. And because I love them so much, and if you spent more than 15 minutes with me, you know I have zero self-control. So I kind of got 2 more sets. I got my thumbnail, I got my materials. Next step was to actually plan the cover, and I started actually on this last night while I was hanging out with Alexis. So this was kind of like, I wanted to have another run through before I started on the legit cover. Over here, I was trying some gradient things. Like, these don't blend because they dry so quickly, which is super good, but I'm personally not a huge fan of like attempting to cell shade, especially with things like paint. I'm just like, the lines always end up too messy, and I'm such a perfectionist that it needs to be like a perfect curve or I'm going to burn it. So I tried a couple of things. I at first had just like a transition of flames. I didn't have this white put in, but I didn't like it, so I added the white to see like if that added anything, and I didn't like that either. Then I thought, hey, what about dots? So what I'm going to be doing for this background gradient to kind of make it flow a little better is I'm going to be doing this kind of like stippling technique from like dark to light, and even bring some of the light over to the dark just to make it like a really nice steady change. And in this last one, I looked up horses because despite having a horse phase that lasted approximately 17 years, I apparently can't draw one to save my life. So I looked up some references on like Pinterest and Google and a couple of videos of them in motion to make sure I actually kind of figured out, okay, how do horse work? How horse work? Alrighty guys, well, I don't think I have an excuse to put this off any longer, so I am gonna move some things around and get started with the actual cover. Ah! So as we're drawing, I actually also wanted to kind of talk about the book itself and a little more about my process, and especially kind of review the Artistro markers that I mentioned, because they play an integral part in this creative process here, and how I've like chosen colors and whatnot, and actually how this entire cover came together, because I wasn't sure what was going to work, what wasn't, and so how the pens behaved was really a big part of how this cover turned out. This final composition, like actually sketching on the cover, was so terrifying for me. I was so scared that I was gonna like press too hard and dent the cover, or like just mess up and hate my composition and just delete the video and put off creating a YouTube account for another 12 years or whatnot. So I'm really glad it did turn out really well, and it kind of matched the original composition that I had in mind. Once we get to coloring or painting here with the pens, it actually looks super cool. There's like a really neat effect that the cover has with the final composition. So I also wanted to like discuss the book itself while we're going through the process here. I, as you can tell from the introduction, absolutely loved it. It was such an incredible story, and the choice to write it in verse rather than in prose, I think, really moved the plot along in a way that was compelling and really convincing, and just like it made Joan's story much more emotional than I'd ever thought it really was. I think my favorite thing about the story was that we start with Joan when she's barely 12 or 13 years old, and very, not timid, but very unsure of her place in the world. And then by the end of the novel, she has found her purpose. She's this leader. She is very, like, she's just a really interesting character, and it's even crazier thinking, like, oh my god, this was a person. But the story is told in such a way by Hemphill that it's just super emotional and compelling, and it is like something that you're like, wow, that's insane. It sounds like fantasy, but it was actually something that happened historically, which is like, that's just so cool to me. So other things that really played into the designing of the book cover that came from the book were the horse and the standard that I've sketched in here. So Joan isn't really a fighter. She just becomes one because she needs to be one for France. But she's very driven to be peaceful, even though like she doesn't want to be a background character. She's never one to sort of hide, but she is always someone who fights for peace and tries to do everything in a very peaceful way. And is just a fighter out of necessity. And so two really important things for her character were the horse and the standard. So I chose to include the horse because the horse is kind of like the first experience John has when she is actually mistaken for a boy, and she believes, oh wow, I actually could be the girl from the prophecy, because her neighbor mistakes her for a boy as she's riding his horse, and she's just so inspired. It was such a turning point for her character very early in the book, where she thought, I can do this. I could actually be a soldier for France. I'm more than just a girl. The standard was something that I felt like I had to include because it was also another major integral part of her character and her growth. She commissions this beautiful banner woven with like the fleur-de-lis and these things related to God and her kingdom and France and everything. And it's something that she would hold high in battle as a way to sort of inspire her soldiers and her troops. So I really wanted to include the banner because, first of all, what a great way to write the title of the book. Like, that just sort of was perfect. And it was also something that very much inspired hope and bravery and honor. And that just felt like that was her, basically. As she was holding the standard, she's holding herself up. So I had to. She's incredible. I was so proud of her. I also did want to talk a little bit about the Artistro markers that I'm using. These were great. There were some tips though, so in case you guys are thinking about getting these or looking into paint markers and paint pens and aren't really sure what to get, these are some tips that I came up with as I was using them. First of all, you'll see me playing with a blot sheet a lot because these nibs are really hard, so I didn't want to like pump them on the cover themselves in case ink bled or in case the tip would actually dent the surface of the book cover. I just didn't want to like result in any imperfections or divots. Going over a color again and again would sometimes cause the paint to sort of pill or like peel up in a way, but I think that's mostly a result of me being impatient and kind of going over a color too much when it's not quite dry yet. So that's probably more on human error than the paint pens, because the pens were very consistent. If you shook them well enough, then the color would never have any like striations in it. It was just really nice, solid color, and you could get some very fine detail work in and cover pretty big areas all with the same pen with little to no effort. So really love that on Artistro's part. The one complaint that I had with the pens is actually not a complaint about the like material or the performance of the pen at all. It's actually just something to do with the color labeling and everything. On the box of the 42 set, and I believe, I didn't check online, but I believe on most of the boxes for the larger sets of markers, they actually have color, like dots with the color name listed next to them on the back. However, on the pens themselves, they don't have a color label, so you can't really associate which color is which because they aren't really organized in a particular way, and there isn't a name, so you're just going to hold up like all the greens to like the different green colors and try and decipher which green is that green or is it a different green? I don't know. So that was kind of frustrating. So there is like, if you're very particular like me, you may want to like swatch them out or Sharpie like a little code on the pen caps so that you can keep your colors organized and make sure that they're all like ready to go at a moment's notice, because without the color names on the pen cap or the pen body, I really couldn't tell which one I was picking up until I swatched it, which, you know, it's a very little thing. It is not a necessary thing at all, because these are definitely crafty tools, they're not fine art tools. So not a huge deal. However, it would be super cool if those were included sometime in the near future. Oh my lord. Okay, so going to this banner, this was actually the hardest thing in the entire composition drawing process, because I couldn't figure out where I actually wanted to fit the title. I know that was like the thing that appealed me to this banner, but I couldn't figure out what to do, and I wasn't sure what font, so I ended up just sort of using the actual paper cover as a reference, and then going in with my pen and just sort of rearranging the lettering and everything. Having that cool overlap between the G and the F really added to it, I think. So this is the finished book. I'm actually like really pleased with how it turned out, especially like all the metallic details on like the fleur-de-lis and her armor, and even those little highlights in her hair. I think that really just pulls everything together and surprisingly well matches the spine. So like, I'm not mad. I'm glad I spent all day on this. I wanted to thank you guys so much for watching. I am really excited to start posting a bunch of more videos in the near future. I think I'm going to be doing a couple more book cover repaints like this one, maybe something Hobbit related. Let me know what y'all think about this guy and what kind of books you'd like to see me do in the future. If there's a book, oh yeah, if there's a book that you like, recommend it to me. I love reading YA and fantasy and stuff like that, so if you have anything in that genre, I would totally love to check it out. I'll also post links to buy this book on Amazon in the description below. I will also have a link to Stephanie Hempel's website so you can check out more about her. She has some other incredible books, including another telling of Sylvia Plath's life, which I am dying to read. Oh, and also I will be posting a link below to get all of these Artistro sets. I'll just like send a link to their website, and if you have trouble accessing it, they're also available on Amazon, but shop from them if you can. The shipping is totally okay, and it's just good to support them directly from the source. I can't stop staring at it, you guys. Oh my god, I'm just so happy with her. Look at that baby. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until the next video, stay epic, y'all. Bye!